This is Rif on Chaf Vav and Chaf Zayin in Beitza. So we start with the Mishnah, which is actually on Chaf Hey, which goes B'chor Shenafal Bar. If the B'chor, firstborn animal, fell into a pit. So you should know for this that B'chor, which doesn't have any permanent blemish, is Muksa, because it can't be slaughtered on Yom Tov, because you can't eat it. So if a B'chor fell down into a pit. So Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Yard Mumcha V'yira, an expert checker of blemishes, should descend and see, basically to check the B'chor. Im yesh bo mum yala v'yishchat. If it turns out that the B'chor has a blemish, so then you can bring it out and slaughter it. The imlav lo yishchat, and if not, you can't slaughter. Rabbi Shimon Omer, kol she'ein mumo nikar me'erev Yom Tov, ein zemen hamuchan. Anything whose blemish wasn't visible while it was yet day, this is Rabbi Shimon, so he says anything whose blemish wasn't visible while it was yet day on Erev Yom Tov is not considered prepared, it's not considered muchan, so it's muksa on Yom Tov. Onto the Gemara. We moved over to Chaf Vav. So the Gemara says, B'mai kamifugay. In what do they argue, this Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon? B'roen mumin b'yom tov kamifugay. They actually argue on whether we can inspect for blemishes on Yom Tov. That's the point of their dispute. Rabbi Yehuda Savar ein roen mumin b'yom tov. He holds that we. Rabbi Yehuda Savar roen mumin b'yom tov. He holds that you can inspect for blemishes on Yom Tov. Rabbi Shimon Savar ein roen mumin b'yom tov, and Rabbi Shimon holds that you can't check for a mum for a blemish on Yom Tov, and therefore, since you can't check, so you can't then check and bring it out and shacht it. In general, in a case of dispute between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon, we paskin like Rabbi Yehuda. In this specific case, Rabbi Shimon, we paskin, we establish like Rabbi Shimon that you cannot. Now, why is this? Because we see in the Gemara, Damrinan, Ami var dina'a chazay b'chra de bein nesiya hava. This we moved over to Beitza, Daf Chaf Zayin, but we said over there that Ami, the Verdinite, would inspect b'chors for blemishes for the house of the Nasi. Savar delol nechse b'yom hatava. And he thought not to inspect b'chors on Yom Tov. Also, Rabbi Ami, and they told this to Rabbi Ami. This is a different Ami. This is Rabbi Ami. So Amar Lahu Shapar Avidolo Chasu, and he told them that it's a good thing that he's not checking for blemishes. So now the Gemara objects. Ini, is this really so? V'ha Rabbi Ami Gufei Ave Chasi. Rabbi Ami himself would inspect for blemishes on B'chor on Yom Tov. So the answer, Rabbi Ami may esmo Have Chasi. He would actually inspect from yesterday, in other words, from before Yom Tov. Yom Tov, Shayule, who dekamishayel hechi hava ovada. So he would do the actual inspection to determine that it actually was a permanent blemish, and then on Yom Tov itself, he would interrogate. He would ask them how it came out, how the blemish occurred, because if it happened to be deliberately inflicted, then the Kohen would be banned from eating it in such a case. And just to demonstrate that, in fact, we have cases where you inspect for blemishes Erev Yom Tov, and then you actually ask about the specific situation which had occurred. You do that on Yom Tov. So the Gemara continues, Kahu Gavra Da'isi Buchril Kamei de Rava. This specific person brought a Bechor to Rava, Afna Demala Yom Hatava. And he did this in the afternoon on Erev Yom Tov. So Rava was busy, so he wasn't going to do the entire inspection then. Yasif Rava v'chayef feshe, and Rava was scrubbing his head. He was washing his hair, and so he was busy. So dalei einei v'chazei lulumei, and so he lifted his eyes and he checked out the mum, and he saw that it was actually a mum. So Amar Le, he said to him, Zil ha'idna v'sa l'machar. go leave now and come back tomorrow. The next day he came, the same person came before him. So Amrulay, Emily Gufeid Ovadahe. Go tell me the actual substance of the incident, how it was, how did it come about, and how was the blemish caused. So Amrulay, have a manchin sa'arei achorei dehotza, and so he told Rava that we were placing barley behind a thorn fence. And it entered its head through the thorn fence, and it split its lip. There's slight different wording in our Gemara, but it's more or less the same situation, that there was barley behind this thorn fence that they were placing, and so the cow put its head through it to try to get to the barley, and it split its lip, thus that was causing a mum. So Amrulay v'dilma at garmatlay, and maybe you actually caused the mum somehow. So Amrulay lo, and he told him, no, I didn't. So the fact that he was asking him about the substance of the incident, how it came about, so mechlal the grama asir. The implication of this is that causing a blemish is forbidden. So now the Gemara is going to go on a tangent to minayin the grama asir. How do we know that causing a blemish is forbidden? So Amar Abaye answers the Sanya. We have a brisa that talks about the derivation. And in the brisa they cite Vayikra 22:21, which the pasuk goes V'ish ki akriv zevach shlamim laHashem. If a person brings a peace offering to Hashem, l'fal neder olin dava, in fulfillment of a vow clearly uttered, or for a free will offering, Babakara Ovatzon, of the herder of the flock, Tamim Yihiel Ratzon. It should be perfect in order to be accepted. And then the pasuk ends, Kol Mum Lo Yihiabo. There shall be no blemish therein. And the drasha is on this end of this pasuk, Kol Mum Lo Yihiabo. Since if we just look at it midrashically by itself, not in context, the implication is that kol mum lo yiyabo, there shall be no blemish therein. That you should take care that there is no blemish on it, and therefore there's an isser to cause such a blemish. So this really only tells me, as we're about to say, so kol mum lo yiyabo, ainli ela shelo yiyah mum biyadayim, that you shouldn't cause it directly. Minayim shelo yigram lo al yidei davracha. How do you know that you shouldn't cause it by some other mechanism, like in the case beforehand, if you Rava was inquiring to make sure that he didn't intend to cause the cow to split its lip by going through that fence. For example, shelo yavi b'tseik, that you shouldn't bring dough or a fig cake, and place it on the goat's ear, such that the dog will come and take that batseik, that dough, or the devela, and end up injuring the goat while it's getting it off of it. So Talmud Lomer Kolmum. The pasuk says Kolmum lo yavo. Amar mum. It could have just said mum lo yavo. So the Amar kol mum, it says any mum. So any way of bringing about a mum is also forbidden. So that's that's basically the Gemara that the Rif cites, and now on to the Mishnah. The Mishnah says behema shemesa lo yazizenu mimkoma. An animal which died, one shouldn't move it from its place. And now an incident involved with this. Ma'a said there was an incident to Uvo v'shalos Rabbi Tarfon alei, and they asked Rabbi Tarfon about this behema shemesa, an animal that died, and they also asked him v'ala chala shenitmes, about chala that you separate off of the dough, and it became tameh. And so the question is, what do you do with this on Yom Tov? V'nichnas leveis hamidrash, and he entered the study hall. V'shal, and he asked, V'amru lo yazizam mimkoman. You shouldn't move them from their place. So onto the Gemara. Tirgama Zeiri. Zeiri translated this. He explained what the case was in the Mishnah. V'hemas kadshim v'haya mesukenes me'erev Yom Tov. This refers to an animal that had been sanctified, and it was dangerously ill from erev Yom Tov. And to explain, time with the behemoth kachim. It's specifically because it's behemoth kachim, the sanctified animal. The ein machilin osa l'klepim. You can't feed it to the dogs, so therefore it's entirely muksa, and therefore you shouldn't move it from its place. Hadechulin, but if it's not sanctified, but it's just regular meat, shari l'taltala, it's permitted to move it. The kiven de mesukenati me'erev Yom Tov, since it was dangerously ill from erev Yom Tov, daita alei, his mind was on it me'etmal from before Yom Tov, l'hachil l'klapim, in order that he was going to feed it to the dogs. L'fichach shari l'taltala, and therefore in such a case we would be permitted to move it. Daikanami, they're now going to reinforce this by careful analysis of the Mishnah. Diktani, because it said in the Mishnah, Masa v'shalo es Rabbi Tarfon alei v'al hachal shenitmes. They asked him about it, about this behemoth shemesa, and also about the chala that had been separated and then had become tameh. Kilomar, that is to say, habehema shemesa, this animal which died, dumya d'chala shenitmesi, was similar to chala which had become tameh. That it wasn't fit for anything. Shmamina, and we actually so deduce. Now on to the next Mishnah. We're not counted initially, and it's not clear what it means to be counted initially. You have to look carefully at the Gemara, see what they explain. But it means you can't be counted initially for participating in purchasing an animal. And this is b'tchila, initially, b'yom tov. Erev Yom Tov, but you can be counted towards it from Erev Yom Tov, and then on Yom Tov v'shochatin mechalkin beineihem, and then they could slaughter and divide it between them. Actually, on Yom Tov, Rabbi Yehuda Omer shokol adam basar keneged kli o keneged hakopitz. He said that you can weigh meat against a vessel or against a cleaver instead of using standard weights. So if you have a scale and you put on one side a kli, or on one side you put a cleaver, and on the other side you put the meat, so Rabbi Yehuda says you're allowed to do it. The Chachamim Amrim, and the sages argue, and they say ein mashgichun b'kaf maznayim kol ikar. You can't use a scale at all on Yom Tov. On to Beitza 27b. The Mishnah that I just cited continued on to 28a. But we're just going to talk about the Gemara on the first part of the Mishnah. So that Gemara is on 27b. So it talks about my ein, and what does it mean that you can't be counted? Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. So Rav Yehuda cited Shmuel, ein poskin daman al behema b'tchila b'yom tov. We do not initially fix a price for an animal on Yom Tov. Ella hechi avid, how should he conduct himself? Amar Rava. Rava says maybe shtei behemos umamidin zo keneged zo v'omer zo kazo. He should bring two animals and set one opposite the other and say this one is like that one in value. Tanya nami hachi. We have a brisa that also says something very similar. Lo yomer adam l'chaveru hareini imcha b'sela. A person shouldn't say to his friend, I am with you for a sela, that's a specific amount of money, for a sela's worth of meat. Hareini imcha b'shtayim. I'm with you for two. Aval omer lo, but he can say to him, Hareini imcha lemechsa u'lishlushu rivia. I'm with you for half, a third, or a quarter of the animal. Okay, so this is the end of Chaf Zayin Amid Beis. We resume with Chaf Ches Amid